Now it's like, you bastard, you're killing monkeys.
Not come on you, but
Dividends suck.
I hate your courses.
I knew it. It's all a scam. I'm coming for you, man. You're next. A small PP is okay. And maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I suck and I'm delusional.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for joining us. I know you're a busy guy. Congratulations
so
on
exciting.
getting your great
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun. It's great to be back
Smarter
here. It's
every
been
day.
like a year.
Yeah. So tell us the certification stuff. You got the financial advisor.
Yes.
Which is series
65.
What is that like? Like that whole test when you become that?
You know what's interesting is you need no experience to take these tests, which is also kind of scary because it's like, oh, you'd think like, oh, everybody should have like all this experience before getting licensed. But what they really want is people to get licensed, to be regulated, and then start trying to build your business and gain experience. So I think it's really interesting and it's motivating. It should be motivating to everyone. Like you could go out there. It's like, I want to create a broker or dealer. I want to be a financial advisor. They're like, go for it.
Yeah.
They're like motivating you to go do it. And that's what's so great about America. It's like, you want that license? Go get it.
How do you study for it? What are some of the questions that are on it?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, a lot of it is, 90% of it you're going to forget. Like with any test. I mean, I've done real estate agent, licensed lender, licensed contractor. 90% of it is crap. It's like, after filing your application, how many days do you expect to wait before, hearing a response,
Sure.
right? Or whatever, right? It's
Right.
like that memorization crap. But then what I like to do is I read the manuals, read through it once, and I make all these notes because they actually have really good tools in there for how to run your business. They're like, oh, make sure you do this once a year. Make sure you do this twice a year. Most people skim past that. I actually write that down and I make my checklist. I build my businesses off of what they're literally a guide on how to run your business.
Well, they're probably also content creation tools, right? You're like, dude, people need to know about this. I'm going to highlight it on my next video,
Absolutely.
blah, blah, blah.
Or it could even be content that we talk about. Like I've done it before where I'll be on a course member live stream or whatever. I'm like, oh, by the way, hey, I just studied this, which here's how this could apply in real life. Again, it's like 10% of the stuff from the test applies. But it's really
smooth plug.
I had to get it in early, bro.
Coupon code.
Link down below.
Oh
Go to meetkevin.com.
Speaking of scamming, exposed.
I'm starting to sweat, man.
No,
hey,
I'm
man,
not-
I wore the short shorts for the sauna, okay?
Sure, yeah.
Full disclaimer,
No,
it
we're
was
gonna
for
grill
the
you here.
sauna. And I'm like, oh, I'll be ready. We'll start taking it off, and there won't be much to take off because I'm ready. And it's like, oh, no, we're doing it inside. I'm like,
It's all right. We're gonna make you sweat either way.
We just needed a reason to
I'm
keep
not
you in
done
your
with the
shorts.
questions on the test though. How
Please.
long is the test itself?
well, I mean, there are a bunch of tests. I mean, I'm going to be going through. So I went through 65, 7, 63. I'm going to go through 24, 27, 14, SIE. And
What does all that mean exactly?
like all of these are different duties that you're telling the regulators that you're going to be capable of following the rules in. So most people run away from regulation. They're like, screw the government. I don't want the government in my life. I don't want them breaking down my door and looking at all my crap. And what it actually is, it's really just a barrier to entry for people. And if you get these licenses, you have that moat around you because everybody else is so fearful. The tests are like 3 hours long a piece. Usually you get them done in like 2 and then you check your answers and stuff like that. But each test probably takes about a week to 2 weeks to study for. So they're not that difficult if you're familiar with the stuff. I'd say the hardest one is the very first one you take because you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. But every test afterwards that I've taken, they're like easier and easier and easier because there's so much overlap. Right. So it's not intimidating. I kind of enjoy it. And I look forward to like by the end of the year, hopefully just being done with all of them. So once you get them once, you have them forever. So I'm like, I'm 32. I'm going to have them and I'll be done forever.
Are you worried that by having these licenses that makes you more liable to people suing you if you give any kind of advice on the videos?
Well, so here's the trick about this. If you have licenses, you can get insurance that you might not otherwise be able to get. So for example, a handy person who's not a licensed contractor gets sued. They're like, crap, I got no insurance. You're screwed. You become a contractor, you get insurance, general liability insurance. Now there's a mistake, the insurance covers it, right? So you give financial advice. Like I would rather have somebody, like I would rather tell somebody this is licensed financial advice. You paid me $1 for licensed financial advice because it turns insurance on. As opposed to, this is not financial advice, you didn't pay me anything, and then they sue you trying to construe that it was. So I'd rather go out of my way and go, you know what, it is.
Right. But wouldn't you be able to get media insurance just the same and have it be somewhat comparable?
Right. So for a YouTuber's point of view, Like absolutely, just have media insurance. If you're not actually ever doing financial advice, you're not doing anything with all these. Like I'm not getting these licenses for YouTube. These licenses are for all the other different crazy things that I want to do.
Right.
I would not get them just for YouTube. For YouTube, I would be like media insurance. You don't need a license for that. I'd make my YouTube content, not financial advice. Done. That's all I would do for YouTube.
Right. What do you say to people that say like, why do you sell courses? Isn't that, like if you really had an edge over people and you had this secret trading strategy and you could make millions, like why would you want to share that with people?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I don't profess to be a trader. I'm not a big fan of trading. I'm a big fan of real estate. And I think that I really believe wholeheartedly there are great ways to leverage what you can do with stocks to get into more real estate. What you can do with real estate sales to get into more real estate. What you can do with sales to get into more real estate. The big thing for me, like if I'm just like totally naked, it's like just buy real estate. Just go buy real estate, but buy good deals. And what's crazy is people are like, there's no way to do it. I could say buy wedge deals until I'm blue in the face. People won't do it. The arbitrage exists. And that's why we're creating a whole company on it. HouseHack, my startup, househack.com. Learn more. Read the offering circular, raising money. But anyway,
It's no shame.
Yeah, just gotta get them all out in the first 10 minutes, man. But hey, man, that's where the retention is. We gotta get more retention.
Yeah, we gotta ask
more
more confrontational questions.
But yeah, look, I get it. People are like, hey, man, why do I want to pay you this, that, or whatever? Let me put it this way. When I was 18 years old, I wish there was a way I could have had, here's a blueprint to how somebody who was successful as a real estate agent did it. Here's how somebody who's successful running real estate renovations did it. And even if I paid $300-400 for it, or like, a $100 crash course or whatever, and even if I got one thing out of it, I could compound that over my career. And that's what we forget is when we learn stuff when we're 18 or we make mistakes when we're 25 or we're 30, we don't make those same mistakes again when we're 40, 50, 60, hopefully, right? Unless you're a knucklehead. And so the earlier you can learn stuff, the more you can gain in the long term. So I'm a big fan of courses, actually. I think more people should have more courses. I do think courses in the future will probably be regulated, and there'll probably be some kind of like good like review system for them, like a Yelp for courses, right?
Well, it makes sense in the real estate example because there's so much to learn with real estate, but I struggle to figure that out with stocks because to me, I've never met or know any examples of someone who's a successful stock trader over 50 years. So how is it possible to justify the existence of stock courses and valuing companies? I will say it is valuable to understand how to value the quantitative or qualitative stuff. Like I get that there is a science and an art to it. But I also understand mostly art. But I also understand exactly that at the end of the day, you could know everything, but
it goes the other way.
It just goes the other way.
Well, that's what I hate about stocks. And I talk about this in the stocks. One of the first things I talk about in my stocks thing is like, look, unless you've got like over $1 million, why are you here? Like, go make money, go make more income, and buy real estate. Because this stocks is bullshit. Stocks, like, and my thing about my stocks course, for example, is basically trying to convey how bullshit and rigged it really is. Like, if anything, it's like, look, let's now find the real ways to make money.
Would you go as far as saying there's no more value investing, that everything's sort of
there's
gamified
definitely
at this
value
point?
Investing. No, there definitely still is. Like you look at a company like Intel, massive value, but that doesn't mean the stock's going to go up.
Right.
That's the problem. You could look at these companies that are like, oh my gosh, it's trading for like a point. You made a video on the PEG ratio like years ago.
Yeah.
You look at Intel, you want a PEG of ideally under 1, under 1.5. You look at like Apple, it's like a PEG of 3. Intel's like a PEG of 0.3. Right. There's a value company. Is it going to go up more than Apple? Who knows?
So okay. So you tell people then it's BS, right? So then what is the takeaway? Is it just buy the S&P 500 or just dollar cost average? Because I know you don't like that kind of advice either. You're like, oh, that's just cookie cutter advice.
No, it's not that. So it depends on what everybody's individual situation is, right? So and everybody wants to have like a one-size-fits-all answer, but here's the reality. Unless you're retired or about to retire, I'm not a big fan of dividend stocks. Right. You're Mr. Dividend, okay?
I love dividends.
Sorry, man, I hate dividends. You're a scam.
I love dividends, man.
You call me a scam, that's a scam.
No, because dividend stocks, like with companies, they can't fake their income. Like, I mean, yes, they can, but eventually, the emperor's exposed.
Well, I mean,
if you can pay, you pay. If you can't, eventually you can't.
But you could do that with stock buybacks too, right? So like a company like Enphase doesn't do dividends, they do buybacks.
Right.
And Enphase has been in the toilet, actually. I think it's a great investment. But that's not good advice for everybody. Because here's the thing. if somebody's like, I'm about to retire next year, should they invest in Enphase? Probably not. They should probably be looking at like dividend stocks or something that's going to give them some yield. They got some money in money markets. Honestly, if you were about to retire, I think the best thing to do is buy every single 10 or 20 year bond you can get your hand on, because you're locking in, 4.5% to 5% interest right now for the next 10, 20 years. Why would you not take that? Money market, you're not locking it in. They drop rates tomorrow, your money market goes down tomorrow.
Right.
It's crazy. You remember when they did that during COVID? Right at the beginning of COVID, everybody's like, get 3% at Wealthfront or whatever. Fed cuts rates. It was within 30 days, all of the companies had lowered their rates in terms of their yield, right? So as far as dividends, the thing that bugs me about divs is you have to pay the taxes.
Yes.
Right?
Unless it's in like a Roth or something.
Yeah, but then you have a limit in terms of how much you can put in.
Not the mega backdoor. That's up to 50K.
Well, okay.
I know for you that's peasant money here.
Hey man, are we talking poverty here or what? That sounds so bad.
Just saying.
No. It is true. There are ways you could do the backdoor conversions and that. This is true. And I think they're great. But then you've got that money tied up for a while. There are limits to what you can do with that. Retirement accounts are great, and I think they have their place, but they're not for everything. So the problem with money outside of a retirement account is if, let's say, you're getting $100 in dividends, and you're, most states have an income tax of, 5 to 8% or whatever, plus your qualified dividend tax rate, you're probably paying 25 to 30%. So you're left with $75. Well, why do that when you could leave it in a stock that's either doing stock buybacks or it's just an appreciating stock, and they're not distributing this forced cash? Now you're not paying taxes. Not paying taxes is nice. Nobody likes paying taxes to the government, one. Number two, here's what most people do with money they get from like cash flow. They spend it. Like, I just got $100 in dividends. I'm buying those Nikes. Oh, you ain't buying Nikes anymore for $100, but
I don't know. Just set it to drip and just let it reinvest.
That would be the smart way to do it.
Sure.
Now you're still paying taxes, but that would be the better way to do it. There was and I think we've talked about this before. It's like $100 in a savings account is $100 guaranteed to be spent. $100 in a brokerage account is guaranteed to be stay invested.
Sure.
Right? So yeah, set it to drip. Great. Especially if you're towards that second half of life where you need income. But I think, and I don't know.
But isn't there something to be said about dividend growth rates and over time they compound and they grow, and if you get into it early.
It depends, because the companies paying dividends usually aren't your growth companies. They're usually your legacy growth companies.
Well, if you're aiming for like 4%, 5%, yes, they're not going to grow from that point. But if you start with the growth, like at 2%, like the Apples of the world. Oh, sure.
Apple's offering like, 1.5%, 2% or something. You're right. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. I would personally prefer they just did buybacks, honestly. But yeah, I guess that's where it all comes down to the individual, right? Sure. So, but yeah, as far as, I don't even know how we got to that, the whole thing about dividends. I think I just needed to be mad at you, Andre.
My bad.
No, you're
wrong.
wrong.
I think I sidetracked
dividends
you.
suck.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Where did you, yeah.
But I guess the big thing of it is, I think it all started with the course thing, right?
Yes.
So it's like, okay, if I have a vision of how I think there's a good way to build your wealth in stocks, minimize your taxes in stocks, be able to build a portfolio where you can rebalance in a tax-advantaged manner. I think these are principles that apply really in any market.
Right.
And I think those are the things to take away. Is there really going to be a course that's like, if you buy this, you get perfect buy-sell alerts and you're going to become a multimillionaire? Of course not. Do I think you can become a multimillionaire investing in real estate pretty quickly? Absolutely. That I really believe.
It's interesting because I think most people's perspective or perception of these courses is exactly that. Like people promising get rich quick schemes. And oftentimes the marketing is that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that would be a red flag, is any kind of like, you're gonna get rich quick. Like, it's funny with our house hack fundraise, people are sending, some people, they send us emails. They're like, so when am I gonna be able to take my money out at a 10x? And I'm like, we have to reply, like, we don't know that you ever are going to even get any money back, right? So, but that balance is what's really important. And that's why people don't like regulation, because in the unregulated market, you could say whatever you want. You could say, hey, like, this is going to 10x guaranteed, whatever. And there's like, it's like, well, when do you get in trouble? When it all collapses, like FTX or whatever. What do you do when you're regulated? Well, when you're regulated, you have to say, hey, look, we hope that we can take house hack and create massive cash flows by taking wedge deals at scale, and then rolling them into little mini funds or whatever. But then we have to balance that off and go, but we might not. We might not make cash flow. We might not make money. The mini fund idea may not work out. So that is like a balanced pitch. A lot of courses, you don't see that. And that's in fairness because it's not a regulated market.
Right.
So like we started off by saying is like people run away from regulation. Well, I think in the future.
Yeah, put skin in the game kind of, right?
Yeah.
Like gives you some ownership over what you're saying.
I think so.
So from someone like me who's a content creator, but I have no aspiration towards becoming an actual financial advisor. Sure. Do you recommend that I get regulated and get my certification or stay out of it? Okay.
Stay unregulated as long as possible.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Like the reason I'm going for these licenses is like not for YouTube. It's because I think I can make more money with some of these ideas that we're going for. Otherwise I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Like if it was like, oh, get these licenses and make, 1/100th of what you're making otherwise, why bother? You're dealing with all this headache and stress.
Sure. What's your portfolio broken down like right now? Let's talk about that.
Oh, sure. So my real estate investments are mostly going to be house hack and some properties that we have left. But basically, I like having a portfolio that's like 50-50 real estate stocks.
Okay.
And so house hack will be a big portion.
50%.
That's my goal, is that'll be 50% of my portfolio.
When you say that'll be, it isn't right now.
It's not right now, no, because our fundraise isn't done yet. And I'm kind of waiting until like right when we finish our fundraise to put in the rest of my
So where do you keep
funds.
most of your money right now? Treasuries?
Yeah. So right now, house hack money is in treasuries. I'm in stocks. I'm overweight in stocks.
You're still in stocks. Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I figured you'd be in like cash right now.
No, that was like Jan of 2022, and it didn't last too long. I wish it would have lasted longer. But I really believe that we're setting up for, whether we go through another dip and we have a recession or there's a crash or whatever, I think within probably the next year and a half, maybe even sooner, we start pricing in the next boom cycle, which will be inflation adjusted higher than where we were before.
So you think we're going to be in a bull market within a year?
That's exactly opposite of our last guest.
Oh,
they went on this whole thesis about going down.
Yeah,
soon,
he's like, we're going to get a recession and we're going to have the worst time ever.
So yeah, let's hear your argument.
What's the thesis?
Usually when we go into a recession, stocks bottom. So, and the question is, were we closer to a recession last year or now? And we were closer to a recession last year, and stocks bottomed last year.
Based on the GDP or?
Well, based on everything. So you look at GDP, you look at company earnings, which earnings growth basically went to zero for company earnings. Then you could look at like manufacturing output and all of this nonsense, which basically they all went negative last year under a REIT of 50, and now you're starting to see them come out. Basically, when you chart it out, the chart's kind of doing this.
Sure.
And so the bear argument is, well, rates are so high, something's going to break. And then when something breaks, we're going to have that double dip. Whether or not we have a double dip, I think we come out of this a lot stronger. America and the American economy will be the strongest economy in the world. Maybe that's next year. Maybe that's in 5 years.
What triggers the bull run?
Fear has to go away. So fear has to go away and money markets have to drop. Right now, it makes no sense from like this logical point of view to go, I'm going to sit in stocks when you could earn 5% risk-free on a money market. JP Morgan called me. They're like, Kevin, if you bring us $5 million of new money, we'll give you 6% on a money market locked in for a year.
That's incredible.
And I'm like, this is insane. This is like really good.
So are you going to wait until the Fed drops rates, which you think is next year?
For what?
To buy those?
To start buying
terms?
or to start financing or?
Oh, okay. So it changes. So, well, let's see. There are a couple ways to answer that. For real estate, I think this winter is going to be pretty glorious because what we've noticed, and it's really interesting, is prices peaked in May of 22. They came down to December of 22. Then they started coming up again in January. The people who were like, oh, rates are going to go down again. They start buying. So you have a lack of inventory, so prices go back up. Now real estate hit a wall again. And it's seasonal. As soon as you hit back to school, prices always hit a wall. But now interest rates are probably going to be 8 to 9% with how high the 10-year has just gone. I think this winter is going to suck. So I think if there's a crash to be had, it's in real estate and it's this winter. It won't last long, though, because I think people will look through it. And that's a lot of what's happening right now. In order to really, like probably your last guest said, have this dirty, dark recession, you know what you need? People lose their jobs. people to get fired. That's what you need. You need companies going, in order for us to survive, we need to fire people. And people will say, oh, well, we had layoffs last year. Those were an excuse of a layoff. So here's what happens. Bull run, companies expand. They get to like 100%, 110% of the jobs they need. Then a little bit of turmoil in markets, they do layoffs. That's just the excess 10%, the people they didn't really need. You get into like shit hitting the fan, that's when you go down to like 70% of your workforce having to do 100% of the work. That's when you have the deep cuts.
And you think that's coming?
No, I think that's possible. But that's what it would take to actually have real hell. So can that happen?
That's the signal.
Well, I mean, the problem is it's a lagging signal, right? I'm just describing what it would look like.
No, I remember the
It's like
recession
08.
happens first, and the unemployment.
The unemployment
happens later.
lags, for sure. So unemployment lags. But how can that start? And this is where it goes to the real estate part. It could start with if rates do stay high for long, real estate hits the fan this winter, November, December, January, February, and it stays bad. For some reason, inflation starts ticking up again, which prevents the Fed from coming down. Now you stay high for too long, companies are going to start having layoffs. Then you're in stagflation. Then you start getting layoffs. You start getting layoffs compounded by a real estate crash. Your last guess will be 100% right. 2024, 2025 will be hell. It'll be a nasty double dip, and it'll be hell. So the way I look at it as a business owner is, well, do I have enough money to basically get me through the next 5 years? That's the way I look at it. With all the expenses I have and all the kids we're going to have, all this craziness, right? Because we got twins coming next month and maybe more after that. Can we get through the next 5 years? And if the answer is yes, it doesn't matter. So all of what I'm doing right now is looking at, okay, what does 2028 look like? And 2028 for me looks like I want to have our brokerage business for why I'm getting all these licenses, my house hack business, just keep building my YouTube business, whether that's finance and politics or podcasting or whatever it is. And so I'm looking through it. But I also think most companies are. I think most companies are saying, we're going to look through this pain of the next 2 years and we're not going to lay off. Because remember the pain of how hard it was to hire people? People don't want to go through that again. But there's a limit to how long people can last.
Right.
Imagine it's 5 years of hell. Well, then people start laying off,
In that worst case scenario, how much do you think real estate would correct by? 10%, 20%?
I mean, in a worst case scenario, I don't think we have 08 levels again, which is where condos and multifamily were down like 45% and houses were down like 38%. I think, and it's weird because if you say, well, 15 to 20%, well, we had that last year. It's weird. Can we get a revisit of that? Yeah, probably 15 to 20% is that revisit. I don't think it's as bad as 08. So what I see for real estate is turbulence. I kind of see this. And so it's sort of like the summer runs, and if there's pain, go buy in the winter.
Are you worried that it doesn't pan out or the recession doesn't happen and it takes off again and then you get left behind?
Well, I won't be getting left behind because we're going to take advantage of this winter and we'll just buy wedge deals in any market.
Okay.
The beauty about buying a wedge deal for your audience that might not know is just go into a market, and I'm going to simplify this, I know this, but you look for homes that are smelly. You walk in and it smells like cat urine. It smells like poop. There's trash everywhere. I went into one that was basically like a haunted house. There was like a picture of a devil on the wall and there was cat poop all over the place.
You were like, perfect, I need this.
Oh, I go in and I'm like,
yeah, fix this all up.
Smells like money, baby. I go upstairs and it sounds horrible, but I go upstairs and I'm like, I always say this to the agents. I'm like, any rooms I can't go into. And they're like, nope, no rooms you can't go into. So I go upstairs, everything smells like trash. I open a door and there's like this passed out like 80-year-old like this. They look like they're basically dead. Oh. And it's like, it was horrible. I mean, it almost felt like I was in like a hospice situation, but there was no hospice care. Like they needed a bedpan, but they hadn't gotten the bedpan. And so it's that bad. And so, some people look at that and it's like, oh, you're taking advantage of the old people. It's like, no, that person is about to lose their home to foreclosure in 2 days and they need a cash buyer coming in, giving them liquidity so they can actually get the help they need. But that's why there's an opportunity to make money there as well, because you can pay in cash. Home buyers don't want that. And people look and go, that place needs $200,000 worth of work to get all the poop out of it. And I'm like, it needs $40K, you know? So that's construction arbitrage. Long and short of it, for any home buyer, find a place that needs some work. Paint, carpet, some of the basics, and you could usually buy something for less than it's worth. So that is true in every single market. So it doesn't really matter what the market does.
Let me ask you, do you regret the airplane?
No. Yeah.
No. Okay. Let's talk
so-
about the airplane. Did you fly
please.
in here?
Oh, hell yeah, I did.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
On the private jet. Okay.
Absolutely.
I've seen it, by the way. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I milk it. That sucker is amazing. So here's the thing. When you own a private plane, I would say 90% of the cost is it sitting there. So why would I not fly it? Let me give you some real numbers here. If that sucker is sitting flying 0 hours, I'm in for about $1.9 million a year of cost. And I'm paying for all of this. People are like, oh, is Househack paying for this? Househack has not paid a dime, and I don't intend for them to pay a single dime of this plane.
Sorry, 1.9 million. That works out to be like roughly 150K a month.
Yeah. For sitting there.
Yeah.
Sitting there. Nothing.
No big deal.
No fuel. No,
Sure.
it's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
No, I'm fully aware it's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like I look, I go, oh man, I gotta write that check again. You know, like
Right.
yeah. So, meanwhile, my house payment's like $2,800 or something
Right.
like that. You know, it's like, well, this is
Yeah,
backwards.
it's your house that travels, you know?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's funny. I added in my phone, Apple, like add another home because I put a Bluetooth speaker in there, and I'm like, plane.
Oh my gosh.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, so 1.9 just to sit there. I fly it for 400 hours. It costs about 2.3. If I fly it for another 50% more hours, so 600 hours. So literally half more, another 200 hours, it would cost like another 200K, which I'm not just trying to say like, oh, it's just another 200K, but that's only about 10% more. So 50% more flight time for 10% more cost. So why is that? Well, because the loan on the plane doesn't care how much you fly. The pilots, while they personally might care how much you fly, their salaries don't. You pay the salary anyway. You pay the insurance, no matter it flies or not, because it could get, it could get damaged in a hangar just like it could get damaged by a bird in the air. You're paying for the maintenance on the plane, the inspections on the plane. You're paying for the hangar rental. All these fixed costs are so high that it doesn't make sense not to fly it. So I look at it and I'm like, do we want to go to San Diego for 2 hours? It's like, sure. It's like 24 minutes and I'm in San Diego. It would ordinarily during traffic take me 4 hours to get there. So it's like a time machine is what it is.
Right. But it just makes more sense when you're making a ton of money. But hasn't our incomes gone down this year, or is it?
As long as it's greater than my expenses,
Sure.
or at least, honestly, even if it's par with my expenses, it's fine.
Really?
Well, sure, because I don't need to make money right now. I really don't care. My thinking is I want to grow all these businesses. That's why I got the plane. If you buy a plane because it's like, I want to sip Mai Tais on different beaches every day, that's dumb because that's going to get old.
Are you thinking about it in terms of people? Like these are the people in the country I can go visit and make deals with and
100%.
connect with?
Because everybody forgets real estate is a people business. So is, really anything.
Do you have any stories of people you met because of your PJ?
Stories I've met because of the plane. I
I just feel like you'd meet billionaires and you're like, hey, what's up? You've got a plane too.
Well, it's funny. We flew into Austin the other day, and Elon Musk's whole security team was there waiting for him to arrive. Like we
Oh.
saw the guys with the ear pods and everything.
Yeah.
We parked right next to where his SUVs were. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is crazy.
But is there anything that converted into a tangible deal or?
I think the way to look at it is, I can't say exactly, because I have the plane, this. But what I can say is, because I have the plane, I'm able to be in 200 different cities in 7 months or 8 months or whatever. What we were 9 months into the year or whatever. So we've been on like 200 different legs. So I've been able to visit Tim Pool in the same 48-hour time span as visiting 20 different real estate agents in different cities. I can't do that over Zoom because agents don't do Zoom. Sellers don't do Zoom. I make deals happen because I can go shake hands and be at these properties. These two properties we just bought, the first two properties, it was the number 2 and 3. Number 2 and 3 property we bought for Househack happened because the agent calls and says, I got these 2 great deals. You got to come see them. We fly out there. We meet him. We write offers on both of them. Like find them, write offers on both of them. We go look around with some other agents, fly away. It's like we probably negotiated these deals after we were at the offers for like 4 weeks. But because we were out there, and the listing agents met us, they're like, okay, these other offers aren't working out. We're going to go with you guys. And so that wouldn't have happened if we weren't there during that window.
Right.
And so I have this tool that lets me basically run a YouTube business, run an actively managed ETF, run a real estate company, and which will also relate to this broker dealer thing we're doing. There's a whole coordination between the mini funds and the broker dealer stuff. That's all just way too complicated for now. But point is, everything I'm doing is in this mission of how can we make all these companies a success. I can't do it if I can't fly.
Right.
So honestly, I wouldn't do it. I would just retire. I'd just make YouTube videos by myself all day long. That's all I would do. Which is fine. That's a great life. I like it. It's very
Sure.
chill. But Lauren asked me, because somebody, who was it? Stephen Mark Ryan. He's a great guy. He makes the Tesla videos all day long. He sent me a message. He's like, how do you do all this without the wheels falling off? And so I asked Lauren, I go, how do I do this without the wheels falling off? And she's like, you only function when your life is like that.
Right.
Like if it's like you're least happy when you have the least to do.
That's fascinating. Yeah, your ambition is both admirable and terrifying to me.
Just gonna have a heart attack one day, man.
Dude, like, think you developed over time, or would high school Kevin have been that same way? Like, I just need to study 3 different subjects and like make sure to dominate this.
High school Kevin played World of Warcraft.
Okay.
And I did that in World of Warcraft. I'm like, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It's like RuneScape or World of Warcraft.
RuneScape, that's right.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not just going to do my quests in my game. I'm going to make quest guides for Rune HQ.
Custom levels for everyone.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to make the maps. I want to be a forum mod, but they don't pay you. I want it. You know? It's like, I don't know, man. It's, I don't think it's good because there's like this weird like balance you have to strike.
Did you learn that from your parents? Are they like that too?
I learned, I look at a lot of what my parents did, and unfortunately, a lot of it's like do the opposite.
Oh, you're the opposite kid?
A lot of it, yeah. There are some things I really admire, like my dad's work ethic. I think somehow my mom's ability to kind of make friends with anybody is pretty amazing. But then she can also be really abrasive in other cases. But anyway, so I think I don't know where it comes from really, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Like, it's like now, one thing my father-in-law told me 11 years ago, he's like, you want to be busy, sink yourself up to your eyeballs in debt, and then you'll have to work. And that's plain.
That makes sense.
He just needs more and more debt to keep moving. Yeah.
I need more businesses.
That's fascinating.
Spy Twitter.
What do you think of the whole SubjectTo thing about real estate?
Most of it I think is a scam.
So explain briefly to all the non-real estate what SubjectTo is.
Okay. So there's this like idea that you can subject to anything, which is basically a fancy way of saying, hey man, like, Andrei, buy my iPad. I'll sell you this iPad with this little pencil here that has Meet Kevin on it. Actually, it doesn't even, but we'll pretend it does. Anyway, and I'm going to sell this thing to you here for $1,000. And you're like, well, I don't have $1,000. I'm like, how about I finance it for you? Pay me $100 for the next 10 months, $100 a month or whatever. Now you've bought this subject to financing. That's an example. It's basically like you do an own or carry. You could do this with a business. Like, hey, I'll buy your business. And you're like, your business is worth $1 million. And the owner's like, well, I think it's worth $2 million. And you say, well, what if I could get you $2 million, but now I want you to let me make payments to you at 3% interest over 30 years or whatever, right? What you're really doing is this iPad's not worth $1,000. This is probably worth $400. But if I sell it to you for $1,000, you're like, sweet, I got an iPad subject to financing. You're overpaying for it. But the reason you're overpaying for it is because you're buying that financing opportunity. Right. You're able to get into a deal that doesn't make sense other than the fact that you're able to get these sweet like loan terms for it. And so what a lot of the Sub-2 folks say, which they're great people, they work hard, they got their plans and stuff, but usually what the Sub-2 people say is like, well, if you then find out that the iPad's not worth $1,000, just stop making payments. And I'm like, well, that's not the kind of reputation that's going to let you stay in business a long time. So usually what ends up happening is you create this idea that you could sub to anything, real estate. You just overpay for the real estate. Hey, you go to a seller whose house expired for $550,000 because it's worth $475. I'll give you the $575. Finance it for me. That's how you do it. So you're overpaying for the product, but you're getting a deal on the financing. So people usually say it's price or terms. But because that's not a very sustainable business model, the real sustainable business model is making a course out of doing Sub-2 and getting these financing deals on these overpriced iPads.
Where does it fall apart?
well, it falls apart in doing it over and over again, because if you buy overpriced real estate or overpriced properties over and over again, and you're not able to diversify your risk to either with a profit driver like courses.
Well, couldn't you rent them out?
Well, of course, but usually what happens is you when you do these sub-2 deals is because you're overpaying, you're usually, and not always, you got to run the numbers, right? Usually, especially in today's day and age with interest rates the way they were, it's probably harder today. But usually you're at such a point where the rents are based on these glorious projections and not reality. This is very common on social media. You say, here's a property with 10% cash on cash returns. Then you get into it and you realize you have to deal with evictions every 3 months, or you have to deal with collecting rent with a gun. This is really hard. So I think every single deal should be looked at. And here's the bottom line for everybody, because I'm obviously speaking in broad terms right
Generalizing,
now, right?
sure.
I'm generalizing. And maybe that's not fair because I'm not a sub-2 guy. I'm extremely biased against sub-2. Any sub-2 guy is going to be like, Kevin, you're an asshole. You just don't know what you're doing. Bring me any sub-2 deal, and I will look at the deal and show you why you're overpaying. Any sub-2 deal. And then the counter argument is, well, I know I'm overpaying, but. It's always a but. I don't like doing but deals. I call them yeah buts.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
I hate your dividend stuff,
Right.
okay? Like, I want to take your dividend shit and light it on fire.
I hate your courses.
Oh! Speaking of which, go to
Scammer.
meetkevin.com. Oh! When are you going to launch this course? Well, you have a course. You have a course!
I don't have a course.
What
no.
What course did you made a course?
Yeah,
you made
I made
YouTube
a
course.
little video series that I guess you could call a course. That was
Do not call my product a course.
how to do YouTube videos, which is very like it's
But
not
you-
promising people to make any money. It's more
but
like
you have good like strategies, man.
sure.
Like,
I would love to do more courses,
Put that in
even
the-
financial stuff where it's like the obvious stuff, like how to do index funds,
the
how to do
scam's
like
tempting you, isn't it?
it's very tempting. It's very tempting. No, but it's just it's something that I feel like it's good to have as an offer.
Of course.
And if it didn't have such a negative perception, which I think it has every right to be as negative as people believe it to be, because 99% of it really is bad.
Well, I guess
I would
think
do
it
it.
depends on from whom, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I don't think I'm bad. I think, we've got thousands of course members, and what we're going to start doing is inviting them to like a little podcast where we kind of talk to them. And
Right.
But it's amazing.
That's what I wanted to do for Millennial Money, by the way. I wanted to invite regular people
Yes,
just to have
regular
them
people.
on and be like, well, like, what do you want to know about?
Yeah.
Let's talk.
And these are
That's
like-
what I thought would be more interesting to the guys that don't want egos involved,
Yes.
don't want to argue with each other.
What I find is the people who are willing to learn, who buy courses, are usually the people who are the most rational and reasonable. They're like, look, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's human. What can I do to learn some perspectives from you? You're not going to have the best camera strategy in the world for everybody.
Right.
But you're going to have amazing camera tricks. I go down into your studio and I'm like, where's the window, bro?
Right.
Right? And it's like you've got like mirrors and all this. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
like I can't come up with this. I
Right.
would have never even known. Like they say, people are like, oh, just Google it. And I'm like, I would have never even known to
The
Google
question.
that.
Right.
So like somebody putting that in an outline for you, like this, and then you take ideas from it. It's brilliant.
No, but even someone like me who's rational enough to look at the industry and be like, yeah, a lot of it is a scam probably. It's maybe not the best value. I'm not saying that your stuff's wonderful, but I'm just saying.
You call me a scam. I get it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's okay. But even like to myself, I'm like, I know
Do you want
I
an
can.
affiliate link? And then you won't call it a scam anymore?
Oh, that's the way to solve it. 50%.
Link below.
Link below. No, but like I'm like if I don't value free information as much as I do paying for it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know there's a lot of people out there like myself who are like, well, if it's free, that must mean it's not good. If it's if it's charging me for it,
It's just a psychological
it's a
thing,
psychological
though.
thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm aware of the fact,
Yeah.
I still like think that.
Yeah.
I still would rather pay
Yeah.
for something that's curated. It's in one place. I don't have to watch ads. I don't have to just go through the whole YouTube thing. And I just give me what I need.
I've got some expensive wine to sell you, by
So-
the way.
Ooh, the
Yeah.
wine business.
Because wine gets way better when you pay more
I'm
for
just
it.
saying, like, I do it. I
Even if
believe
it's the
that.
same grape.
Everything,
Yeah.
like food, wine, everything. It feels so much better when you pay for it. And I think there's nothing wrong with offering people the ability to consume content that's curated, that they want to pay for. That's fine. Yes, it's out there. It's free. But you could say that about anything, about about a university, a college tuition. It's out there already.
It is interesting because, like one of the things, there are two things here. One is if you pay for it, it's almost like you probably have this sunk cost psychology of like, I owe it to myself to like use it.
Yes.
It's kind of like you pay
The
for that gym
membership,
that you never go.
So I was going to.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You pay for the gym you never go to. You're like, but I will motivate myself
Right,
one day
right.
to go. As opposed to if somebody's like, hey, there's a free gym at the park.
I'll always be able to get to that. Yeah, exactly.
And then you'll absolutely never go. Yeah.
That's why you got to have your own jet to keep you in debt.
Well, yeah, and
keep
so
you
see,
motivated.
hey, you got to pay more for travel, and then all of a sudden you use it.
Yep.
Yeah. If you could go back and buy it again, would you buy the same one, a cheaper one, or?
Wow. Well, that is actually, it's like a sore spot, man. That's a struggle I have because I almost bought a bigger plane the year before, and I wish I did. Like if there's like
a bigger plane.
Oh yeah, if there's a list of regrets I have in my life, probably the one that makes me the most emotional and sad is that I didn't buy the bigger one at the end of 2021.
You have 12 seats in this one.
9
Right.
plus 2 pilot seats.
Okay.
Do
Do you have too many people more often than not?
It's distance. It's
Oh,
range.
it's the range.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
if I got to get to Florida, I have to stop in Texas, which
okay.
is not a big deal. So this is how I rationalize that the small PP is okay. It still performs, The way I rationalize it is,
Just stops in Texas.
yeah, well, like if I'm going to do like, let's say I do like 50 trips to Florida a year or whatever, to that side of the United States. In order to have a bigger plane, 100% of the time, I would be burning almost twice the fuel. So all of the operating costs would be bigger. Hangar's bigger. The pilots are going to have, potentially more pay. The insurances cost more. The engines are bigger. The parts are more expensive. The fuel, the tank is like twice the size, right? So for those 50 stops, I calculated this out. Having the small plane compared to the big one saves me about 20 grand per stop. So it's like every time I stop now, I go, well, I just saved $20,000 to sit here, go to the bathroom, have a cup of coffee for 20 minutes, and then you get back on your way.
Sure.
So like I have like rationalized that like thing that hurts me in my past, but I wish I did buy a little bit of a larger one that could get me nonstop to the East Coast.
Yeah.
Will I change now? No. It's okay. Fuel efficient for planes sounds crazy, but it's true. This sucker gets a whole 3 miles to the gallon, okay?
Oh,
like we're killing it here.
amazing.
The other planes get miles to the gallon.
Like one?
No, like negative. Like
Negative?
Like you need like multiple gallons to
get
get
to
1
one.
mile.
Wow.
0.5,
Yeah.
0.7.
yeah, exactly. You're in the decimals. Exactly. Yeah.
Jeez. Are you still charging, or do you still have the course group where people come with you? Not come on you, but come with you on the plane.
Oh, that's for
Andre.
the Unity fans.
We'll skip that one.
Yeah. So if people want to shadow me when I go look for real estate, they can still do that. What we've done now is because when we had it open to everyone, there'd be like loonies we found. So now it's like if
Loonies? You got to
it's-
tell me a loony story.
It's just like confrontational stuff where people have like, they're so convinced about like how they want to sell. I'll make up an example. They're like, you know what? This card right here, this is the next multi-billion-dollar idea, and it's a joker. How clever! It's not a joke. It's the Jack. It's like this Jack is the best idea in the world, and you got to pitch this on your channel. You got to do this, and it's like high pressure on like why I need to love this idea. And I'm sitting there and I have to sit there staring at these people, when we're traveling, whether it's by car or whatever for real estate. So I'm looking at a house with them, and then they turn the corner and then they're there again. They're like, I'm in the master or whatever. And I'm like looking at the bathroom and they're like, remember, Kevin, this is the next big thing. And I'm like, good Lord, I can't handle
I
it.
see. So you're constantly being pitched ideas that you don't care for.
Well, it was that the scummy stuff I couldn't stand. And so what I did is I said, okay, well, if you're not a course member and you want to shadow me for a day, whether we're looking at real estate locally or whatever we're doing, it's like $8,000. And I'm not expecting you to pay for that, but like I don't want those people.
Right.
So, but if you're a course member, it's a lot less. I don't know what it is. It's like $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000, whatever it is. And every time a course member shadows me, again, whether we're looking at real estate locally or traveling or whatever it is, these are the greatest, most appreciating people ever. Like, they want to learn. They're coming to get perspective. They're like, even if I learn one thing today, it's worth it. And yeah, I really like it. They're just happy people. I want to be around happy, positive people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, but anyway, yeah. So we got there with the whole like PP thing. Yeah, you hit on like my biggest regret. Yeah, it would have been a bigger one. I could have gotten. I can't get to Hawaii, man.
You know, life's good when your biggest regret is not buying a bigger plane. Like,
You know, that's a saying, actually.
Had a bigger plane.
Yeah,
It's true.
it's a saying. They're like, as soon as you buy a plane, and like you come in to park your plane, you're just looking at everybody else's plane. It's like, man, that guy's got the better one.
I have heard Warren Buffett say, like, my life is just like yours, except my plane. You know, he's like, I eat
I
a Taco
travel
Bell, I
different,
live in a regular house.
He's like, well, I travel different. Yeah.
It's just, look, if it wasn't for all these businesses, it would be the stupidest expense ever. Nobody should buy a plane. If people are like, I'm buying a jet, unless they have a reason to travel quickly and often, it makes zero sense at all.
Do you think you'll ever have enough? Like, you'll one day just wake up and be like, I think I'm good at.
When I'm dead.
Okay.
No,
You'll just keep going.
I can't. I just like, I have to have this like 110 heart rate like all the time. Just like, oh, like,
Yeah.
I love it. You know, and then when I go to sleep, it's funny because it's the opposite. I get like, I keep getting these warnings. It's like, your heart rate fell under 40. It's like 39 or whatever.
You're almost dead. Yeah.
You're almost
Your
there.
body's compensating. It's like, bro, let me just be dead for like 8 hours at least.
At least 3.
That's so interesting because I feel like you and I have such a similar background being immigrants, and yet you thrive on like
Chaos.
living on the edge. Yeah. Whereas I'm the opposite. I feel like I lived that life with my parents growing up, and now I want nothing to do with it. I'm like, I don't want your drama. That's why I don't make like response videos to anyone. And I know I could make so much money with the ad revenue making response videos. I don't care for it. I just want a peace of mind.
It's how interesting. We want the opposite of our childhood. That's actually relatable because my childhood was my dad being an entrepreneur, but then losing his business. And then us we literally went from having no money coming to Florida, parents didn't know how to speak English, to having money. And so we went from apartment to like having a nice house in the Weston Hills Country Club in, Florida, and private school and this, that, to, the business failed, .com recession, you're losing all your friends, you're moving out of your neighborhood, you're going out of private school, oh my gosh, our car just got repossessed, we're walking to school, we're back in a crap apartment, and it was like literally going right back to the bottom. That experience is probably what makes the way I've internalized it is like, I will do whatever I can to keep building businesses to make sure I'm as far removed from that as possible.
Right. But you experienced it, so you knew what it was like to have it and then lose it.
That was bad. As a 7-year-old,
right.
That's really like scarring.
Yeah, that's
So you
hard
have
to
that kind
adjust
of like
to.
offense is defense mentality. Like, if I'm not fighting forward, I'm always going to get pulled back by the stream.
Oh yeah. Yeah, somebody had this analogy the other day. I thought it was really good. They're like, you're on an escalator that's going down. And so if you're not like running up it,
Interesting.
you're going down. And there are claws at the bottom.
Okay, that's fascinating.
It's like swamp. It's like all the haters.
Right. Dude, I'm the opposite.
From below.
From below. Oh my gosh. Dude, I'm the opposite. I'm just like, I feel like I got so lucky with YouTube. I feel like all of us did, but
Yeah, it's totally luck. Absolutely, I'm totally there with you. It's like
it was just such a
man.
crazy thing that
Timing,
like happened. Timing,
everything.
Yeah, everything. And it's like I don't think that's replicable, so I don't want to do anything reckless to lose it or.
But that's a smart thing to do. Like I totally think that to some extent. I mean, I have such a passion for like the real estate startup and all the other things that we got going on. But there's way more risk in that than just like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
Right. It's like, great. Let's just keep put one foot in front of the other, but keep it small, be conservative. I think that's the smart thing to do. Why take needless risks?
Right.
I've convinced myself they're not risks, but they absolutely are.
You're a masochist.
I don't know what that means.
You love pain.
Oh, I guess what
Pleasure
you know what
from
it is.
pain, yeah.
It's like there's this weird like if I'm not accomplishing something, I get anxiety. So like I really I find if a day goes by and I wasn't able to work on something that could either get me ahead or potentially get me ahead, even if we had a setback, at least I was trying to get ahead. I have this massive anxiety problem. It's a problem.
But couldn't you take those same risks not with your financial life and your wallet, instead with like your body, your goals with, physical fitness or family, whatever it is, but not something that is like the core of your well-being?
Maybe. I don't work out. I run. That's all I do.
Right.
That's all. It should be obvious. But yeah,
like all I'm saying is there's a way to get that
funnel
same
that.
sense of.
I think the problem is I am convinced that I'm really good at this real estate and finance stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I suck and I'm delusional. It's entirely possible that I'm a deranged, delusional
Place your
individual.
bets.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like I say with House Hack. It's like people who invest in House Hack. It's like at this point, it's obvious. Like you're investing in like my craziness, and if you don't believe in me, don't invest, right? Because. And I think all of the employees that work for me, it's like we're here because we believe in this vision, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But that's like what I'm putting all my eggs on this idea,
Right?
Because I've convinced myself so much that this is the way.
Yes. No, yeah, you've convinced a lot of people.
I can't work out better than someone else. Like I was just in Vegas. Was it? No, where was I? That was last week. I was in Phoenix. I was in Vegas last week, by the way, with my little boy Max. I was in Phoenix this weekend with Jack. Weekends are great, by the way. So I take the kids and we'll spend some time looking at open houses, but most of the time we'll go to like a water park or like the Lego store or whatever. And I'm like, look, this is my time to really hang out with the kids and spend time with them and develop them. And I think what it is I look at the kids and I'm like, hey, Jack, what excited you today? And it's always like, oh, Dad, I passed this test, or, I didn't think I was going to be able to do this, and then I overcame my fear and I accomplished it. Like, I'll give an example, very specific to this weekend. There are these long slides that you go down. It was at the Arizona Grand Resort.
Yeah,
or
I was
whatever.
terrified of those as a kid. Those are so scary.
I would never go on some of these as a kid, and I never did. I was a scaredy cat. And I convinced Jack to go down one of these big, like, drop slides. And afterwards, like, it made me so happy. He looked at me, he's like, Dad, I feel really accomplished I did that. And this is coming from an 8-year-old. And I'm like, that just made my year. Like, I feel like
Getting
so
over that,
empowered
yeah.
now.
That's
now
cool.
I'm like, how can I have more of that? Not only for them, but for myself. And that doesn't mean like you're not going to get hurt. There's not going to be failure or whatever. But I'm going to wake up and chase that accomplishment and just keep trying.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
He kind of put that into perspective for me.
Yeah. Do you think you'll be a billionaire someday?
Billionaire or bankrupt?
You think so?
B or B?
B or B? That you're going for B or broke or
Well,
billionaire?
I think that just honestly, like at our ages, time value of money compounded out, probably everybody will be a billionaire.
Sure.
at like this level in YouTube or
But
whatever.
what's the obsession with a billionaire? Is it, you think it's a psychological
Well,
thing?
inflation will probably get us there alone.
Sure.
You're a billionaire. You can now buy that Corvette for $37 million.
That's right. That's right.
No. It's not the number. People want to know what the number is. It's not that. I have this addiction. Okay, you know what really sets me off, and this is what I love, and this will become very apparent in the next few years. But when a company that we hire to do something is like, oh, we're the best. We can do this great. We're so amazing. We've got all these systems in place. We're the gods. We're the greatest that's ever existed. And then I'm like, great, you're hired. And then I start working with them, and it's like a complete fraud. Like, it's literally like you pull the curtain back, you're like, what the fuck? What is this? That motivates me to no end to create those businesses and basically put them out of business and do it better my own way. Because I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, people are like, how does somebody like a Citadel, Kenny G, how do they make all this money? You know how they made most of their money was during COVID. They became Citadel and went from, making hundreds of millions of dollars to tens of billions during COVID and Robinhood days.
Right.
It's because they're the market
They
maker
see all the
for-
order flow, though.
Of
the
course.
books, yeah.
Of course. What they're taking advantage of the arbitrage. They're able to go to the desk at the New York Stock Exchange, and that guy's going to sell you Disney stock for $100, and you're going to go on Robinhood and go, we'll sell it to you for 4%. Within 4%, we'll sell it to you for $104, and then it shows up on Robinhood as a bid-ask spread of 103.95 and 104.05. Doesn't matter. There's still a 4% ARB in there, and the money makers are getting rich off that ARB because they have direct access to the people at the New York Stock Exchange. Well, guess what? Once you have enough money, you could be a market maker. Anybody could be a market maker, and it's just a matter of the capital. Citadel had the capital, so they had the capital, and then they had timing.
Right.
And so my point is, like, these businesses, they seem so great, but I want to motivate people to say, like, you can do great businesses too.
Yeah, there's a simple concept right there at the center. They just exploit it over and over again.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the beauties about capitalism. I don't know that it'll, like, I've always asked myself, like, do I wish I was born like 500 years from now? I don't think the opportunities would exist in 500 years.
Sure.
We wouldn't be able to have been successes making YouTube videos.
Oh, for sure. All the opportunities would have been arbitraged out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there probably won't be wedge deals in 500 years in real
Right.
estate. And then what are you going to do?
You
Well,
probably
then
won't need money at that point, though.
Well, yeah, because then you sit in your Ready Player One capsule.
Right.
And,
You live in the metaverse.
You don't even have to move your hand. There's just a robotic arm.
Mark Zuckerberg's
Oh.
gotcha.
Oh, hi, Mark. No, let me ask you this. 10 years, let's say 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Kevin goes public with House Hack, whatever. You sell it for $5 billion, something
Sure.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Oh, there'll be so many other ideas.
Yeah?
100%.
What's your next idea?
Next big ideas, probably, the first and foremost thing is it's really dangerous when you start a company to get distracted because we really have to, like, fully execute on House Hack first. So I want to be very clear, like, the number one priority is execute on this. What's interesting, though, is some of the things that we're doing in the securities world, like the broker-dealer world and creating a broker-dealer, is going to help us tremendously with House Hack. Nobody's really connected those dots yet, but there's a very, very clear link between what we can do with the broker-dealer and what we can do with House Hack. It all has to do with the mini fund stuff, and we'll leave that there for people's imagination. And it also combines with YouTube. So I think when people look at kind of my world, they see, oh, Kevin's in like 10 different directions. They don't realize it's a laser that's focused on one target right now. But I don't know what the next big idea will be, but there are, in having this laser, we've already seen many different opportunities, whether that's in, different aspects of like the stock world, whether that's in banking, whether that's in fintech, whether that's ETFs, whether that's, leverage stuff, who knows, whether that's market making. Those are all like little, like if there's one major red laser that's focused and everything is like putting its efforts towards that, there are these little splinters that are like, wow, that could be a whole business on its own.
Right.
Wow, that could be a whole business on its own.
That makes sense. Has Ross Gerber helped you out at all?
Ross always helps. He's so great because he is like, here's the thing. I've got a lot of people who are employed by me who are younger than me.
By the way, let me just quickly ask. Ross Gerber, he's a hedge fund manager.
He's a financial advisor.
Financial advisor.
So a financial advisor, Gerber Kawasaki, go check him out. Ticker symbol GK for their ETF or GerberKawasaki.com.
And he manages money for clients.
Correct. So you can basically, you create an account with them, you give them money.
Do you know what his AUM is?
They're like $2 billion, but
$2 billion. So he manages $2 billion.
Right. That sounds like a lot, but then if you get like 1% as a fee, that's $20 million a year. Sounds like a lot, but then if you have 50 people, it starts.
Still sounds like a lot.
It's still a lot for the partners,
Sure.
right? But the point is, it's a business like anything else. Like it sounds like, oh my gosh, $1 billion company,
right.
And I'm not trying to minimize Ross's success at all.
Yeah.
I just want to give people perspective.
Yeah, you are. Let's create some beef.
Yeah, I created it. Ross, I'm coming for you, man. You're next.
Right.
No, I love Ross. I think he's great. So what I was saying is I have a lot of employees who are younger, and I train them for exactly like, this is how I want to do things. Here's how I want my accounting done. I get my hands in everything. I'm in compliance. I'm in legal. I'm in bookkeeping. No receipt goes unturned unless Kevin has seen it. I write every single check, right? I sign off on everything. I'm a control freak in that sense. Somebody sent me a text message the other day. They're like, hey, I've got a buddy. He's a real estate developer. He needs some extra capital and wants to develop these hillside projects. I'm like, he wants to partner with you. My response is, well, I know nothing about development and I hate partners and I'm a control freak. So if you're asking me to be a money partner where I have no control in something I have no idea in, the answer is absolutely not.
Right.
Right? So I've become very self-aware of what I'm good at. And the point is, I've got these younger folks that I really try to train to do everything the way I like. But having someone like Ross, who's like a really old man, I mean, he's got to be like 90 at this point or something like that. He's 50. He's having someone like Ross or Bob or Cathie or Bill. These are all people who are on like our House Hack board of directors. They're all older than me by the tune of 19 plus years and on, 20, even 30 years in some cases. They have such wisdom where they can look and say, that's great. You've got all that like micro stuff handled. Now let's remember the big picture. And they help me re-hone that laser that younger people can't. And that's not to be ageist. It's a difference of experience. And it's really, really useful. So Ross is extremely helpful. Like all of his fears and uncertainties, I have to address. Just like I have to address a younger person's fears and uncertainties, or an even older person's fears and uncertainties.
What are some fears and uncertainties about House Hack that you think?
So Ross is a big fear and uncertainty that Ross has isn't really. He loves House Hack. He hates like regulation. So there's this fear and uncertainty around like, oh my gosh, like the more you get involved with FINRA and the SEC, the more tight everything has to be. And so I lean into that because it means, okay, that I can now use that and funnel that motivation to make sure that I get Ross's sign off on stuff, right? So if I can sit down with Ross and go, here's what we're doing, Ross. Here are the systems and procedures in place. And if I can convince a skeptic like Ross on a broker-dealer side or like inviting the SEC into your life, right? If I can get Ross to go, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, then I know I'm on the right page. Because if I only have people who are younger, who have less experience, who are like, that's a great idea, and nobody's being critical, then I don't even know if I'm walking into a pitfall or, like some kind of trap.
And how did you meet these advisors? Through
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Offer us, we get all your advisors.
That's also where I met my pilots.
Facebook Marketplace.
The pilots were on discount overtime for weekend work.
That's right. Yeah, right.
No, I love my pilots. They're so wonderful. But
how do you get connected to them? Just through YouTube?
So frankly, it's everything comes back to like people knowing people. Like old people know everybody, right?
Sure.
So like
old people.
They do. Well, they're like okay, I'll put it this way. I had a pilot that me as a younger person, I'm like, oh my gosh, this pilot, she seems amazing. I love her. I flew with her. She seems great. She seems like she has experience. Her resume's great. Like everything's fantastic. And I'm like, I want to work with her. And then I'm like, hey, plane manager, what do you think? Who connected me with the pilots, right? And like Bob, our CPA, Bob and Cathie connected me with the plane manager. So it's like this never-ending like network. Like they all know each other.
Yeah.
And so plane manager and other people in the industry are like, you're going to hate this person. They're going to get in. This is going to happen. This is a reputation, this, that, whatever. Like, I'm not here to bag on anybody. I'm not saying any names ever. But that experience, how am I supposed to know? So you have to rely on people with experience who have been down that road. Like, here's this red flag you're not paying attention to. And then I take it, and I've literally done this. I took that person's resume, and I went to our younger pilot, and I'm like, hey, are these old people dicking me around? And he's like, no, Kevin, they're right? Ooh. So it's that like age counteraction where like I feel like I'm kind of in the middle, and then I get it from both sides is so useful.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What's next for Kevin?
What's next? I think the big thing is I have this problem where if I make too little content on YouTube, I get sad. So like I go through these cycles, and it's because finance was on this crazy wrap it up.
I've seen you go through these emotional cycles, even though I don't feel like we hang out a lot. I've seen you go through it, and I'm like, dude, Kevin, please don't just let it pass. Just don't address it or whatever.
It's so hard.
It's so hard, and I don't know whether that's because you are as ambitious as you are, or is it an ego thing, or is it a combination of all of it? Because you are one of the smartest people I've met, but sometimes that gets in our way where it's like, I have to address everyone. I have to prove them wrong. I have to and it's sometimes it's okay for other people to not like us. It's okay. Just let it go.
That's true. I mean, somebody sent me an email the other day. It was a total troll, but it was hilarious. They're like, I want to invest $1 million in House Hack, but only if I can punch Kevin in the face. And then
and you responded to it.
Of course I did. Of course I did. Yeah. So I replied, I go, oh, well, if the punch is coming from you, it won't hurt. So go ahead and invest.
Okay.
I don't know.
See, for me, like as a creator, whenever I see, especially in the comment section, like people I love to watch, right? Like creators. And then I'll see like you commenting, even though the response is funny, I think less not of the commenter, but of the creator.
I know. Yeah.
I'm like, if you're so busy, if you're so smart, why do you bother? Like it just like brings you down to that level.
It does. So I had dinner with Cathie Wood. And
wait, what?
Oh yeah, that's big news.
well,
why didn't you say that earlier? Wait, when you said Cathie's on the board, she's on.
No. She's this is a different Cathie. So that's Cathie CPA Cathie.
Okay,
Cathie
tell
Wood.
me how you got dinner with Cathie Wood.
Yeah, what did you guys talk about?
Kept peppering them, but I've done interviews with the other people on the team. I think they're great. I think they're these are like really high IQ people.
Very much.
They're brilliant. So talking to them is great. But I asked her, like, because obviously it's that down cycle, right? And we'll come back to me finishing that thought on the down cycle and what's next. But I asked her, I go, how do you deal with this? Because we're in this down cycle. And she's like, I can't let that negativity affect me. Because every minute I spend worrying about what they think, I'm losing 5 minutes of productivity on like being positive. And she's so right. I still get trapped in like what'll happen is it's almost like magnetic. You'll like, oh, let me just check the comments because you're like in a taxi or whatever. You're in between. You're going to the bathroom. It's the famous. You're at the urinal and you're like, let me just check the comments really quick, right? You can't not look. It's like somebody takes their clothes off and they're naked and it's like you can't not look.
Right. What's Cathie like outside of her media persona? Like, was she funny and like family oriented and stuff,
She's
or was
exactly the same? There's no difference. She is the same on camera as she is in person. Like she'll even make the same hand gestures. Like this at dinner. Right. It's amazing.
More
it's
steak
like,
sauce,
I
please.
see this and like the lines she draws on CNBCs and I'm like, this is happening in person at dinner here.
What's some of the most valuable advice that she was able to pass on?
Well, that's pretty useful. I need to pay attention to it more and I try to incorporate it. Like I still have that demon where like I have to look occasionally. You scroll through the comments and you see the bad one, like that's the one that sticks out, the one that like angers you, right? So as far as valuable advice, I mean, she is so convinced that her strategies, and I love this because she's so all in. She's like, our stocks are on sale. Like, how could somebody bet against my belief?
Right.
She is so wholeheartedly invested into the vision of innovation. And I love that. So that enthusiasm, that like righteousness, like this is the way, and I won't let the negativity get in the way. It was inspiring.
What did you want to ask her?
I don't know.
What did you ask her?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. It's been since like last summer.
Who are and I want to hear the craziest dinners you've had. Who are the most famous financial people you've sat down with outside of a video?
I mean, it's like even just like the Kevin O'Leary or Barbara Corcoran, right? Or like these are fun, right?
Yeah.
They're so cool. But you know what's so interesting? There's a common denominator between all of them. They're all just like us. They're all normal people.
Right.
Like so let me give you an example of two things happened to me this year. After I got the plane, I started realizing, I go, all these like famous people and these people who are like jetting around, these movie stars or whatever, they're not that different from us. And the plane made me realize this world is really small. Life is really short. Because like now I get around so fast everywhere. It's like, oh, I thought I would have like wanted to go places more. And now it's like, okay, I've been to Europe and it's like, what's left? It's like, can we go to Mars? Like maybe that's why Elon wants to get out of the year. It's like, go to Mars. Because it's kind of depressing. So it's a really depressing aspect of having the plane. It's like, oh man, this is all really small. So anyway, then the other thing that happened is I made this, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I made this like AI video where Ryan Reynolds was pitching Tesla. And I used AI to make him the voice. And it's like, man, Teslas are fucking great. Like, you should buy it. And it was all just like, because the AI fad was going around. And this tweet went like viral. And they sent me a letter. They're like, take this shit down right now. Which was funny because they made an AI version of Elon Musk to respond to me.
Wow.
So like you would go to Ryan Reynolds' Twitter and it was like, here's Ryan Reynolds and responding to Elon Musk responding to me. So it's like, I tweet, Elon replies, nice. Then Ryan Reynolds' advertising company responds with Elon Musk pitching aviation gin, all AI generated.
Right.
And then Ryan Reynolds replies to that, nice, you know?
That's crazy.
But then I got this letter, and then I'm like, then it really hit me. I'm like, wow, even though this is like, it's like humor, it's like everybody knows everybody's just dicking around, right? It's like, nope, people get frustrated just the same. People have the same problems.
We still have our petty little issues, yeah. So that was a cease and desist.
Letter.
A letter, okay. That's all I'll say.
But anyway, point is, I've gotten, it's really depressing to some extent, because it's just like, it's depressing and it's motivating, because it's depressing because it's like, oh, everybody that we think is like, oh, they're so much greater, they're so much smarter, they're so much better. No, they're just in a different situation.
Right.
They worked hard, they hit luck, and they're no different from us.
What is it about? I feel like there's a group of people, you're included in that group, and I feel excluded by that group. Not by that group. It's not like they're not inviting me into their circle. But there is a difference in your guys' belief and conviction in yourself. Whereas I feel like so much of the success of my life, yes, I've made decisions, good decisions. Yes, I worked hard, but there's a certain belief about like, I'm doing the right thing and I know what I'm doing, and I don't have that. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know what you call that trait, but some are motivated by their faith in religion. It's like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. Some are motivated by family, and I feel the exact opposite. I feel like so much of the success is just kind of like maybe chance, or like I just feel like an imposter, and I'm like, I don't belong here. I don't deserve to have courses and do this. Like, I don't have that same level of confidence, and it's not because of my lack of confidence, not because I don't think I'm smart or hardworking. I don't know what it is.
I think what would help is doing it and finding if it works. That's always helped me. So like, you know, I sat down with
But it's hard doing it. That's the whole point. It's like, I can't, like you're doing this ETF stuff, and I'm like, I could never do that. Like, I don't think I'm smart enough to outperform the S&P 500 or
but you
all
could
these.
Try.
I could try, yeah.
Like, look, I sat down with this guy, Matt Reisinger, best like contractor guy on YouTube. I love this guy. This guy is like the nicest person in the world. I had dinner with him in Austin not too long ago. He is like the most evangelical guy ever. Like, I'm not a religious guy. I was baptized, but I'm not a religious guy. I'm not practicing. It's like, I don't really even know what I believe. Okay. I just know I need to wake up and work hard every day. And I sit down with dinner, and he's like, Kevin, this dinner's on me tonight, but now let's pray. And I'm like, okay, like I can join in on this, but it is not my world. I don't understand that.
Right.
But you know what? I respect it, and it keeps him going. I don't have that. Like you said, I don't have this spirit telling me what to do.
Right.
So what's worked for me and what might work for you is just try. So people say like, oh, you flip-flop. Fine. Call me a flip-flopper. Call me whatever you want. I'm going to try stuff. And if it doesn't work, I can stop.
Right.
It's kind of the clothes make the man attitude is what you think? It's like the clothes make the man attitude.
Well,
like
that doesn't work when you're wearing short shorts.
Yeah, but you're like,
$18.
put on the suit and then go try the thing, and then maybe I'll fall into my personality
100%.
from what I experienced.
There's this guy my father-in-law's training to be a real estate agent. He's a smart guy, but he was working at like a golf store, and was just like, it's like, there's nothing against smoking marijuana, but like he's smoking every day and kind of just like, he does his hours, he goes home and chills, right? And like that was him like 3 years ago. So he showed me a good deal, like a property, because now he's a real estate agent, and now he's like, in real estate mode and like serious mode. So he shows me a property, and he walks up to me. He's like, "Good evening, Mr. Paffrath." He's shaking my hand. He's like all like suited up and like the shiny shoes and everything. He reminded me of like when I was like 18 years old, and like, I'm going to go shiny shoes and suit and like dress the part, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, guess what? He's putting in the energy to make it work and to try. Right. So you give it your all to make it work. And to some extent, that's what I'm doing with like the plane and my team and all the expenses I have. It's me giving it my all.
Right.
If it doesn't work out, like you make a course, it doesn't work out, then don't pitch it.
I think my strength is equally my weakness in that, for example, when I get this negativity, I don't feel the need to respond to it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Mike Tyson really put it well. He said, if I think about that I'm a somebody, it upsets me. But when I remember I'm a nobody, it doesn't matter. Which is a great point. But
I love that.
When taken to the extreme, like, because that combativeness in you, that passion, is what allows you to try and feel like you should be able to try.
Sure.
Whereas like for me, it's that attitude that allows me to not be affected by negativity that does not allow me to go forward. Does that make sense?
It does, but then you're trying to get motivated maybe by that negativity, maybe to some extent, like, oh, I got to prove those haters wrong, right?
Right.
Sure, that's motivating too. Like I
It
can't
is.
wait to like IPO one day and then
It
all the
is.
haters,
But-
well, you're so scam.
But the cost of having that attitude is it drains your soul. It's just like it wears on you.
It depends if
And-
there's success.
Right.
So like let's say you make a course and it sells nothing.
Right.
Well, then that is draining. But now let's say you make a course and it does well. That's motivating. You're like, okay, let's do more of this.
Right.
Right? Or like
I guess I've just never had it in me because, like, for example, when I was in the magic industry for 20 years and I started performing, I was in TV
dude,
shows,
20 years. When did you
movies.
start in the magic industry?
I was like 9 or something.
Okay,
Yeah, it was a while. But I never called myself, even then, like this cardistry expert or what magic expert. I was like, I'm just a dude doing magic. And same with cinematography. I filmed, I helped like make movies and all this stuff. I never called myself, I'm a cinematographer. And I knew exactly what my experience was, how I stacked up against professionals.
Yeah.
But I never had that ego about me to be like, I'm this. So when I started doing YouTube and I started succeeding, I knew that if I did courses, I probably would have made an extra $20, $30 million, whatever, over the course of my career. But I'm like, I can't bring myself to do it because I don't think I'm an expert. And so it's not for a lack of results that I don't have that fire. Does that make sense?
I think you're really worried about the impression of having an ego.
I think that's true.
I don't think you need to have that fear because, I mean, I think I act like a fool all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do stupid things. I make mistakes. I come here wearing this, you know, like I wouldn't say, and I don't know, maybe people looking on the outside in are like, oh, Kevin, you're like an egomaniac. I don't think I am, right? I don't think ego should be something that you fear or that you're trying to have or not have, right? I think simplify this for yourself. Make a course. If it doesn't work, then that was either the wrong topic or whatever. Or try something. Like, I'll give you a few examples. I'm like, okay, I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to go for my broker's license. Oh, wow. Now when I close a deal, I make more money. Well, now I know I did the right thing. I should have gotten my broker's license all along because I make more money. Instant feedback because you're taking more of the commission. Then I get my licensed lending license. So I go study, I become a mortgage loan originator. I love passing tests. I hate studying for them, but they unlock opportunities, right? I became a licensed contractor, all this stuff. So anyway, I passed the loan licensing test and the contracting test. And then we're like, okay, I can close more deals for my real estate business if I tell people I can come in here and I'll just have my guys fix it all for you. Pay me. I'll do the invoice right here for you. Because I'll sit down with people. I'll be like, all right, we're going to list it for, $7.99, but we need to paint the inside. And they're like, oh, but then I have to get a painter. Okay, I'll sign your listing after you get a painter. And I'm like, here's the bid. How's that signed? Sign it now, right? And it was perfect because I could give all those tools. But it was a pain in the ass and it was a bad business. That business lost money. Doing contracting for other businesses or other people loses money. So what did I do? I closed that business. I flip-flopped on it. I had an idea to become a broker. That made money. I did more of that. Had an idea to do the construction thing. That didn't make money. So I killed it. So I look at the same thing now. It's like, okay, so I can make an ETF. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to give it my best. If it succeeds, I'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, I don't. I could get all of these series licenses. And if Ross ends up being right in 5 years and I'm like, I can't stand, FINRA walking into my house and going through all my books and records. This is a pain in the ass, which I'm like, bring it on. Like we're extremely transparent and compliant with all the stuff we do. I'm like, bring it on. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing, right? There's a pitfall to it. And I might say, screw it all, give up all the licenses in the future. And I'll be Ross at 50 where it's like, and he's in a great spot. He's running a multi-billion-dollar, investment advisory firm. And he's like, forget that. I'm not having those licenses. Maybe that'll be me, but I have to go through the try.
Right. So you're using money as a yardstick for whether you want to do it or it's successful or not.
Right. And that's, we should separate that from like money isn't my goal. Succeeding is my goal.
Right.
But yeah, money tells you if you're succeeding
It's
or
the
not.
barometer. Yeah. It's the yardstick. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If you make a video on YouTube and it makes you $50,
right,
and another one makes you $2,000,
right,
what are you going to do more of?
I mean, I guess I'm just conflicted because especially in the finance space, when I look at successful people, and there have been many, many that have made tens of millions, $100 million a year, but that have not necessarily been morally good or about how they did it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, then do you apply that same logic? And you're like, well, if they made a lot of money, clearly they're good, they're successful. It's like, where do you draw that line? Yeah.
That's in yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to tell yourself that you're always doing the best and what's right. And that doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. I look back and I'm like, God, I was such an idiot, like so many different times in my life. And I wish I could go back and go like, why? I wish I didn't make those mistakes. But making mistakes is different from your character, right? Like if you're purposefully out there defrauding people and selling crap product and then ripping people off, well, you're a fraudster. You're trying to make a quick buck.
So
Yeah,
if
whether
I
you're
can
rich or not.
if I can simplify what you're saying is, as long as you believe what you're doing is right and helping people, then it's okay. My counter argument is, how do you, like, I feel like all of those people that have ever done anything objectively wrong or whatever, that were sent to jail, whatever, they all believed they were doing the right thing.
It's
so it's
hard
like,
for me to believe that. And maybe that's where I have like this differentiating idea. Like, how does a Bernie Madoff, who knows all the numbers, who knows he's paying out his investors with the income of other investors, like basically the deposits of new investors, how do you not know that's a fraud?
because maybe the ends justify the means. Meaning, if I can continue, like maybe in Sam's case,
sure.
having
FTX.
this FTX, this FTT token,
Right.
as long enough for people to believe in it, I could legitimately build something amazing. In which case, it benefits everyone.
That's possible.
So there is a timeline within that journey of success that is not the best. And then for some people, it works out and they become revered.
Right.
And in other cases, they fall apart before they get there.
Like a good example of that is the Sackler family, like with the opioid crisis, then donating tons of money to charities and hospitals.
Right.
And saying, like,
Or the guy who built the railroad, who
Yeah,
broke
like-
every law under the sun back when they weren't even allowed to build them. But in the end, it benefited everyone. If he was caught before then, he would have been a villain.
You know,
Alfred, by the way, you guys know Alfred Nobel invented dynamite. That's where it all comes from, because he killed so many people, he felt guilty, and now the Nobel Peace Prize has done so much good. You could almost argue, in the long run, the millions of people helped.
Right.
all those deaths help.
But,
Right.
but on the other hand,
So it's like,
yeah,
Isn't there like nitroglycerin and dynamite, by the way?
Yeah.
It's
Sure,
so
yeah.
cool. Like I want some.
but yeah,
I guess that's
but just that concept, like
that's
how-
that
yeah.
Okay, so
concept, yeah.
that's very interesting. Yeah, because the problem is, I don't think that so the way I look at it is everything's in balance, and this goes back to the philosophy of like eudaimonia, which is Aristotle and all this stuff, and it's the balance of doing the right thing while also being able to succeed. I want to look back and go, almost everything I did was to the right point to where like I'm providing value, I'm not scamming anyone, I'm not ripping anyone off. I'm going to provide as much value as I can at every point. There are going to be mistakes and hardships along the way, but I'm going to try my best. And now you have to take it to the next level and you say, okay, well, what Sam Bankman-Fried was betting on was probably that there would be no crypto winter and that prices could keep going forever and that one day he would reconcile the accounts.
Right. And I genuinely actually don't even I don't know for sure if he even was keeping track of it all. Like
that's the other thing.
Billions of dollars was so ethereal. It's like,
Yes.
And maybe your brain wants to ignore certain things too. You want to distance yourself.
Well, it's
Yeah.
you wake up and
How
it's
could
like,
I have
oh,
known?
I've got 10 more Bloomberg interviews and everybody's
Right.
calling me a hero.
yeah, they're
you
calling me
know?
a $32 billion net worth man. It's like,
Yep.
sure.
Well, and I think that's why Kevin O'Leary had this initially when all this broke, this idea that, oh, he's just a dumb kid. Like he made mistakes
Right.
and he wasn't actually
Which
paying
I
attention
can
to it.
see that perspective.
I could see that. Yeah. Like
Yes.
I don't know that he really woke
Right.
up going like, oh yeah, this is definitely
Right.
all a fraud,
Right.
right? Even though it's obvious now in hindsight, it's like, hey, well, you shouldn't be taking investor money and trading it.
Right.
But then again, who says you shouldn't have been? It was an unregulated space.
Right.
So it's
But if he succeeded, he would have been still the revered guy that he was.
in a weird way, yeah, it's true. So I guess this is a question that everybody themselves has to ask. So like, if I'm the railroad guy and I'm like, okay, if we break a few rules here, like, can we create all this success for millions of people? That's something that every individual has to figure out for themselves. I look at this and go, I'm not in a place where we can do that because at any point, with all these licenses we're getting, and this happens on a regular basis. Once you have a BD on a regular basis, 2 to 4 times per year, they just walk in your office and they audit you on the spot. It's FINRA comes in, the SEC comes in, the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation comes in. All these people, you have signed your life away. So that didn't exist in crypto. Right? That regulation was missing. Going back to your first part, like why doesn't the SEC do anything? Well, it's because Congress doesn't do anything. If Congress said, SEC, it is your duty to go inspect every brokerage firm 4 times a year, it would be a lot harder for that fraud to get away.
Right.
It'd be very hard for us to have fraudulent books when we get audited potentially 4 times a year, and we already get audited at HouseHack. Every single receipt has to get audited. DB McKinnon goes through every single freaking receipt. There's like, what about this? Where's this? Where's this? And we have it. It's really hard to even for a moment do something wrong, because then you're going to get screwed. You lose your licenses, you're out of the businesses, and you're done.
So when you're paying your private jet fee each year, and then you also know what salary you're paying your employees, you're okay with that because you think in the long run the business will be more successful?
Well,
you don't feel an obligation to...
So it's worth separating that. My media business, Meet Kevin, pays for the plane, and the audited, it's there. HouseHack doesn't pay for the plane. HouseHack just now, well, actually probably starting this summer, somewhere in here, we've been signing these employment agreements, is paying for people's salaries. And I think HouseHack paying for people's salaries is justified when they're working for HouseHack. When they're not working for HouseHack, they reimburse, right? So I do that. So I think maybe I'm going to ask you to clarify your question, but how do I justify the plane for the media business? Well, the way I justify it for the media business is as such. I could not do YouTube and HouseHack at the same time. And I'm all in on this idea of HouseHack. So my vision is, well, if I'm going to be all in on HouseHack and I have to fly around commercial all day long, I won't have a studio that I could film out of. I won't be able to make my YouTube content. So I decided, well, if I want to keep my YouTube content going, then my YouTube business pays for the plane to get me back home every night. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think, like, in the long run, there has to be some place where you cut off how much you care about everything. Like, if you buy food, are you going to actually take the time to be like, is this all ethically sourced? So I'm just kind of wondering, in your world, like, you have a certain amount of resource that can be put in any direction, like, where you kind of just cut that line off?
Interesting. So, like how do I allocate?
Yeah, because I mean, you can't feel guilty for everything in the world. It's not all on you at the end of the day. So,
I'll give you an example. People look at me and they're like, "Well, your carbon emissions and all this or whatever." Like, it's now the cost of doing business.
Right.
You know, it's like, yes, I'm gonna have way more carbon emissions than somebody else. I think what I'm creating will create a very big net benefit, but maybe that goes to what you're saying. Is that like morally wrong?
Right.
That I'm creating these businesses on the back of more carbon emissions, right?
yeah.
To some degree, you can make a very strong argument that every single one of us, at least who lives in the U.S. and in first world countries, whether through the clothes that we wear or the food that we consume or the gadgets that we have, we are supporting financially companies that are exploiting one way or another, whether that's through labor or through financial means. So we are all a part of what, like, if you want to make a stink about someone's immoral support of something, we are all guilty of it to some degree. But the only people that really get called out for it are the people that...
The capitalists.
Well, the people that stand to profit from doing so.
Yes.
You would never, like, nobody would just randomly call out my mom for something.
Right.
Because there's no benefit to doing that.
No,
There's
it's
no
also
profit.
wouldn't get attention.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I can call you out on it, then...
Of course. But I think that's the system that we're in. It's capitalism, right?
Right.
In a capitalistic society, we're motivated to provide value to other capitalists to other people who need a product or service. If we wake up tomorrow and we're in socialism, we should take what we're allocated and be happy with that. We should be content. But we're not in that right now. And until we wake up in that socialist environment where, like, here's your food ration for today, don't take from anyone else, then it is actually your duty in a capitalistic economy to wake up and work your ass off and try to provide value. So if that means you're working in a sweatshop in Taiwan making these $18 shorts on Amazon that, you know, some rich dude in California is going to wear, then it's your duty to be the best sweatshop operator that you could possibly be, so that one day you can operate your own sweatshop. And then you're going to expand that into maybe one that starts following your regulations a little better and the buildings don't collapse and you're actually providing value, right? You're fixing different parts where there are things to be fixed. We talk about arbitrage in America. Imagine how much arbitrage there is in Vietnam. Right. There's so much opportunity. And you need capitalism to actually provide less exploitation. Who's getting exploited more? Is it the United Auto Workers who didn't get a raise for the last 4 years, who are now demanding, you know, about a 32% pay raise? Are they getting exploited more? Or is it the people making our iPhones at Foxconn in China, where they have to put out suicide nets because these people are going to jump out of windows because their lives are so depressing? Who's getting more exploited?
Right.
Well, obviously, it's very easy to argue that it's these in developing countries that are getting absolutely exploited. Capitalism actually helps everyone's relative income go up. If you don't believe in that, then you believe in socialism, and then we have a debate over the system of an economy that we have.
Right.
But if we agree that right now we're in a capitalist economy, then the best thing for every single person to do watching this video is, how can I go out there, provide more value, and make more money? Make more money should not be seen as evil.
Right.
It should be seen as they're making more money because they're providing more value, and therefore they're getting rewarded, which is what you want to do. Because when you reward people who provide more value, what happens? They provide even more value, or they find new ways to provide value.
Right. It's interesting to me because certain narratives like that one, I agree with 100%, but it's also certain times in the economy, because we're cyclical and people's emotions go up and down, they're ready to hear that. Maybe not right now, but when times are happier.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting how narratives change through the cyclicality of our industry.
I mean, look at Elon Musk. He's like in the boom time, he's loved, and he's going to put chips in humans with Parkinson's to help them survive, right?
Right.
Now it's like, you bastard, you're killing monkeys.
Right.
It's like, and then he's like, they're terminally ill monkeys we're implanting.
Right.
And people are like, you're still killing monkeys.
Right.
It's like, God,
You can't
win, man.
Yeah. Do you think AI is going to change the world pretty soon, or what do you think about it?
AI is a huge revolution. It's extremely powerful in many regards, specifically in healthcare. Generating new vaccines, protein folding, it's amazing. Becoming more productive in certain fields, computer programming, very useful, daily research, even as a content creator, or even like I go travel now, and I'm like, instead of getting a travel guide, I just take out GPT and I look at Google Maps. I'm like, oh, what's this thing? And I look it up on the maps, and then I put it into GPT, and I get all the history I want. And as soon as it's talking and I'm like, I'm bored now, I just put it back in my pocket. I can't do that with a tour guide. I'm stuck with the tour guide when they're still being boring.
That's one of Andrei's favorite use cases too, the travel guide.
I love it.
Hell yeah.
I love it.
Nice. I love that, man. But yeah, no, AI is great. I think that AI software, like when it comes to stocks, AI software is probably a little bubbly, because I don't really think you can monetize so heavily off of AI software. But I think like the healthcare companies and the server companies, they're going to win big.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man.
That
where
was amazing.
Where can people find you? People know where to find you.
Meet Kevin. That's MEAT.
MEAT.
Yeah. No. MeetKevin.com. That's our crash courses on building your wealth. Go to househack.com to learn about Househack. Read the offering circular. There are risks involved, and we offer financial advice now. That's at stackhack.com. Everything seems to end in hack these days, the new ventures. But get stacked with StackHack and get financial advice from myself and the team.
Yeah, appreciate you.
All right,
Thank you. That was
so
very
much.
insightful.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Cool.
Good job, guys.